Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. So, starting with the last question, how would I prevent a fund such as Nyota Fund from being weaponized? First of all, I understand that this fund is from the World Bank. If that is correct, the fund must have a management structure. The fund must have the objective for which it was allocated. A president should have no say over the management of such funds, because the moment the president or any other person in the executive have a say, they will always weaponize them for the benefit of their political, aims or interests. And that is where the abuse comes in. I think as president, I would have absolutely no role in running or management or dealing with funds like that. Those funds would have to be run independently, arm's length from the executive. That's my view. Because individual interests always encroach. Whenever you give people access to such funds, you cannot rule out the fact that their parochial individual interest will trump the interest for which the fund was designed. So to avoid that, just have an arm's length relationship with the management of the fund and have the fund properly audited independently. And if there is abuse, such abuse should be dealt with in accordance with the law. So that's my view. One of the people I respect politically and that was a role model for me when I was growing up was Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Just one. I did not say it's the only one. I just say one of them. And in 1962-63, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was in the Legislative Assembly of the British and was championing for the independence of Kenya, the self-rule of Kenya by Africans. And at that time, the British colonial rule was coming to an end, at least formally. And Jaramogi made statements in Parliament, in the Legislative Assembly and outside, everywhere, that Kenya cannot get its self-rule until Jomo Kenyatta is freed, because Jomo Kenyatta to him was the second God. He said that. It was reported widely. I was not there, but I have read about it. And 2 years after the flag independence, starting 1965 and culminating 1966 at the Limuru Conference, Jomo Kenyatta kicked Jaramogi basically out of KANU and out of the vice presidency. And they fell out spectacularly. And Jaramogi said how Jomo Kenyatta was corrupt, how Jomo Kenyatta had betrayed the freedom fighters and the independence struggle, and all of that. Could one say that Jaramogi was inconsistent because he had said Jomo Kenyatta was the second God and said independence could not be obtained until Jomo Kenyatta was freed, and then later on said these things about Jomo Kenyatta? And if the same cannot be said of Jaramogi, why should the same be said of Miguna? Why are we not using the same rules, same principles, same standards? Is a human being capable of making a decision today about somebody and tomorrow saying that that somebody that they had said A about is now B? And if so, why should that be allowed of other human beings but not Miguna? Number 3, are people able to make strategic decisions politically at any one point? For instance, Raila Odinga campaigned against Kibaki in 1997. and they contested the same presidency, and they were said to have lost the election to Moi, and that was in December 1997. By January 1998, Raila Odinga started negotiating with Moi for his party to join KANU, which he eventually did. And he dissolved his party, the National Development Party, NDP, and became KANU Secretary General. KANU and Moi had detained Raila Odinga for 9 years, political detention without trial. He now joined the same party, the same president that detained him for 9 years, became Secretary General, and became Minister of Energy. Has anybody condemned Raila for that and said he made some mistake that cannot be forgiven? If you did not condemn Raila for that, how can you condemn Miguna, who did not join Jubilee, never joined Jubilee, never took any position from Uhuru, never joined UDA, never took positions from Ruto, never took any money from them, and has criticized them even though he said he voted for them? Which one is worse? Then in 2002, Raila Odinga campaigned against the same Kibaki that he said was torture. Just in 2005, he campaigned against Kibaki, whom he had said was torture in 2002. And nobody condemned him. Nobody said he was inconsistent. Why would Miguna be the only one where standards are raised to a point where nobody else, that standard is never imposed on anybody else but Miguna? Why? That is a question I must ask. Because the same Ruto that became president in 2022 was with Raila in 2002 and campaigned for Raila. No, it was with Raila in 2005 and campaigned for Raila in 2007 and was a member of the Pentagon in 2007. And in 2007, the Muteshi question was already well known. But Raila appointed him a cabinet minister in the coalition government that followed, and nobody condemned Raila. Was Miguna the only one who knew about Muteshi, and Raila didn't? What role did Miguna play in appointing Ruto Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Higher Education and a member of the Pentagon? Zero. So, again, the same Ruto fell out with Raila in 2009 and joined Uhuru Kenyatta. Nobody called him anything. Then they formed government through an election that followed in 2013. Nobody called them anything, even though Ruto was in ODM in 2007 during the post-election violence. Uhuru was in PNU. ODM and PNU killed each other on the streets en masse, and Miguna was not involved in it. They were indicted in the ICC, and Raila was the leader of ODM. Kibaki was the leader of PNU, and nobody said anything about what Ruto now did with Uhuru Kenyatta. Their marriage was supposed to be a strategic coalition, and they formed government. But Miguna, who only voted, is the worst criminal. Is the one whose consistency should be questioned because he voted, which is a constitutional right. Not that he joined anybody in mayhem, right? I think some of you deserve the shame that you get. I think some of you deserve exactly what you get in Kenya. Because you see, when you look at the history and you look at how inconsistent some of you and shameless some of you are, then you have to ask the question, do you even deserve democracy? Do you? Because if you are you are like this, if you are saying that Miguna, who has never done any of these things and has had the opportunity to, I could have joined any government. Even right now, if I want to join Ruto, Ruto would welcome me, would even appoint me a cabinet minister. But I have not. I mean, it would be such a big catch. It would make headlines for 1 year. But I have not. But nobody wants to give me credit for that, right? I have not done that. I did not do that with Uhuru. The only thing I have done is that if you are my friend today and you give me your word that you are going to obey the Constitution, you are going to obey court orders, you are going to dignify Kenyans, you are going to treat Kenyans with the dignity that they deserve, and then you fail to do that tomorrow, I will attack you. You can write that in gold. You can write that with the hardest metal that you can find. Miguna will attack you because my friendship with you does not mean that you own me to the extent that it doesn't matter what crimes you commit, I will support you. I will not.